All right, let's begin. Hi, everybody. I am John Truby, and welcome to How to Write a Bestseller using Blockbuster software. 20 top story techniques every writer must know. How's that for a title? My promise to you is that today you will learn 20 of the most powerful professional techniques along with a system for creating your best work in the shortest period of time. So, what is my background? I'll keep it brief. In my 30 years of helping writers move to the professional ranks, I've developed a number of techniques to help you write bestsellers. And I'm going to share 20 of them with you today. Excuse me. And I'd like to start by asking the key question for all indie novelists, which is, what's the biggest obstacle to becoming a best-selling writer? It's not what people think. Most people think it's all about the marketing. Not so. I would be the first person to tell you that how you market your novel is extremely important. But the biggest elements that determine whether your book will be a bestseller happen long before you start to market the book. Fact, there are certain story techniques that are consistently found in best-selling novels, regardless of the genre you write. So, what is the real reason writers fail to make the bestseller list? In my opinion, is because they don't know the story techniques that best-selling authors use. Now, they think they know these techniques, but the books they've been using have almost no specific story techniques in them. They've read about 3-act structure, the hero's journey, save the cat. I could go on and on. And those are all fine for beginners. But without practical techniques at the professional level, they are nowhere close to giving you the story tools that you need to write a bestseller. Remember, you are competing to be in the top 1% of writers worldwide. That's what we're talking about here. That's tough. So my question is, do you really think that these basic level texts that everyone else is using to write their stories will get you to the top? Bottom line, the only chance any writer has to succeed as a best-selling author is to learn the techniques that top-selling authors use. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I'm going to go through 20 professional techniques, and I will tell you I'm going to go through them fast because I ran out of time yesterday, and I had to speak without a microphone, so you couldn't hear me anyway. I'm going to go through 20 professional techniques that I believe you must know if you want to be a best-selling writer and do it consistently every single book. Now, to do that, I will be using the Blockbuster Story software. Blockbuster is the preeminent story development software in the world. And why is it useful? Simple. Screens are designed specifically to help you build a story from the ground up. That way, your story always has powerful structure with intense narrative drive. And that term narrative drive I'll be going to a lot because that is the single most important element in a best-selling story. Now, you may have an objection. Isn't writing with story software paint by numbers? Well, actually, just the opposite is the case. because it allows you to get to the highest level of your own creativity. The power of Blockbuster is that it gives the computer the grunt work of creativity that the computer is really good at. So let's let it do that. What am I talking about? I'm talking about keeping track of all the characters in the story, all the plot beats, the character change, the symbols, the story world, and so on and so forth. That frees you up to focus on the creativity that humans are really good at. And how does that translate into writing a bestseller? Blockbuster lets you focus on the overall story structure and the story techniques under the surface that produce the moments that touch the heart of the reader. Those moments of deep emotion that the reader feels for your characters don't just happen because you feel it. No, you've got to set it up and you've got to track it throughout the story so that it pays off big time at the end. Now, as I go through each of these techniques, I will first tell you the mistake that many writers make, and then I'll tell you how to execute the technique to solve the mistake. Now, what you see there is the navigation menu. And it lists the entire writing process from brainstorm and premise all at the top, through character, plot, story world, revelations, symbols, scene weave, scene list, draft, where you write the scenes and dialogue, and rewrite, which helps you fix what you've done wrong. Now, I realize that no one here does something wrong when you write your book. I know that. But just in case you do, it's there to help you correct it. Mistake. The writer defines characters by using traits instead of deep structural elements. Now, here's a character list from the film Outbreak. Why is it there? Because it was written using Blockbuster. So all the text that you will be seeing comes from the original author. And that allows us to see how he created a blockbuster from the ground up, piece by piece. You can see on the left there a list of characters. You can list up to 100 characters. But the most valuable boxes on this screen are right there in the middle, because they give us technique number one. Elements like need, desire, values, etc. These are what are known as deep structure beats. And they include the 7 major structure steps of every great story. This is how you create great characters that really stand out from the crowd. Mistake. Writers fail to start by creating the overall character web, which is based on what role that character will play in driving the story forward. So technique 2 is the main way the top writers define any character, including the hero, is by comparing them all to each other. Comparison is the key to character creation. Technique 3. The first way that you distinguish characters in your character web is by what role they play in your story. These are the main roles that define any character in the story by what they do. Besides the hero, as you can see, they are opponent, ally, fake opponent, and subplot character. Your chances of writing a bestseller go way up if you have at least one character in each of those roles, because this will give you maximum conflict in the story. And one of the biggest mistakes that writers make is they don't know the problems and techniques of creating characters. So Blockbuster gives you two kinds of help on this screen. First of all is the story doctor. The story doctor tells you the biggest mistake you could make on this particular screen. And as you can see, it's you don't have a clear role or story function in mind for each character. And then it tells you how to fix that weakness. The story coach tells you the main story problem you have to solve in this particular area. And of course, we're talking about character. And as you can see, it says most writers do not know how to make plot come from character. That's technique number 4. And in my opinion, is the single most important technique in all of story. Plot should come from character. And the story coach then tells you the key technique for solving that problem. Mistake. Most writers don't know that out of thousands of potential main characters that you could have, a few of them are much more popular with readers than others. Technique 5 comes from knowing the all-important technique of archetypes. Archetypes are fundamental character types that have universal appeal, and that maximizes your potential for a bestseller worldwide. We want to cross cultural barriers. That's what archetypes do. Now notice that on this screen, you have a drop-down menu for archetype. And it lists many of the major archetypes found in all stories. Here's technique number 6. Make your hero or main opponent a trickster character, which is the most popular character type in the world. Let me give you some examples. Classic tricksters like Ulysses, Hermes, Merlin. We have tricksters in the Titanic, Usual Suspects, Pirates of the Caribbean. The Joker, The Dark Knight, is a trickster. Ferris Bueller is a trickster. Super popular character. Now the next technique, number 7, has to do with the 7 major structure steps that are found in any good story. These 7 steps are among the most powerful tools you can use to write a bestseller. I cannot emphasize too much how important these 7 major steps are. Instead of being imposed from the outside in a fake way, like 3-act structure, there are no act breaks in a story. It's totally arbitrary. No, the 7 steps are in your story right now. You have to dig them out and find them. And those are the steps that will make that story work. I always tell writers in my classes, you get the 7 steps, your story will work. If you don't, it will fail. It's that simple. Now, writers make 2 big mistakes when trying to figure out the overall structure of their story. And especially with the second structure step, which is desire. Desire is what the hero wants in this story. Not what they want in life, what they want in this particular story. These mistakes are: 1, the hero has no clear goal. And 2, there is no intensity in the desire. The character should really want it. As a result, they've committed the biggest sin in popular storytelling, which is not enough narrative drive. Desire is where you get narrative drive first and foremost. So, story technique 8. You want a strong goal driving the overall story and each individual scene. Now, notice here in the 7-step screen for Outbreak, the writer lists a clear goal, a strong motive, and high stakes. And all three of those elements go into a desire line. Clear goal, strong motive, high stakes. Now, I believe people learn best and fastest by example. So Blockbuster has 32 story examples taken from novels, films, plays, and short stories. And so if you are on a screen, you don't know what you should do for your particular story on that screen, all you do is call up your favorite story example or the one that's closest to what you're writing, and you'll know exactly what you want to do there. Now, what are some examples of desire in story? From the comedy Little Miss Sunshine to win the Little Miss Sunshine pageant. Notice how clear that goal is. From the detective mystery LA Confidential to solve the Night Owl murder case. Very specific. From the love story 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Charles wants Carrie. Very clear. Now, technique 9 is that when you write your story, start with a specific goal and then figure out everything else from that. Start with desire. Everything else will fall into place if you get that right first. Technique 10 is when you rewrite, start by checking the desire line. And make sure it's as intense as possible and that it extends all the way to the end of the story. That may sound obvious. Believe me, it's not. I've worked with a lot of writers on a lot of stories, and I can't tell you how many times the desire line is accomplished halfway through the story. The story's over, folks, if you do that. Fact. The biggest distinction between best-selling writers and everyone else is the ability to construct complex plot. Mistake is that plot is the most underestimated of all the major writing skills. There are more techniques that go into creating plot than all of the other major writing skills combined. That's how huge it is. But most writers don't know those techniques. So what are they going to do? Well, I'll tell you what they do. When it comes to plot, they think, well, I'll just figure it out as I go. And folks, I got to be honest with you, most of the time that does not happen. And the result is that for a 300-page novel, the average 300-page novel will have no more than 100 pages of story, if that. That won't do it. Technique 11. The most powerful set of story tools for creating complex plot, by far, are the 22 building blocks of every great story. Those 22 steps include the 7 major steps, along with 15 other steps that allow you to build the middle of the story where 90% of stories fail. Why do they fail? Because writers don't know those beats in the middle. They know the opening beats typically, they know the closing beats. In the middle, they don't know. Now, those beats are dimmed out right now because it's proprietary information, but I'm sure you can understand what I'm talking about. Technique number 12. When figuring out your plot, start with the opponent's plan. Now, why? You start with the opponent because that character will set up all the surprises. And plot comes from surprise. I can't tell you a technique that I know of in all my years that's more useful than that technique I just said. Start with the opponent's plan. It will make your plotting ability increase tenfold like that. Now, again, let's look at an example. We've got all 32 of these stories to choose from. Here's the opponent's plan from The Godfather, which has one of the great plots. First of all, it's kill Don Corleone and his sons. And second, use Carlo to lure Sonny into a trap and then kill him. Technique 13 has to do with unique story world. The mistake is, the writer doesn't create a unique, detailed, and original story world. Now, especially in genres like myth, fantasy, and science fiction, that's a fatal mistake. What many writers don't know is that you need a unique, detailed story world in romance, horror, and detective mystery as well. Now, detailing the story world is notoriously difficult. Why? Because you're God. You're creating the world. That's pretty big. But it's easy when you use the story world screen in Blockbuster, because the story world screen prompts you to fill in the details all the way from the macro level of the world, like land, people, technology in the story, all the way down to micro elements like passageways, seasons, holidays. Mistake. Lack of narrative drive is the biggest reason a book fails to become a bestseller. Now, one reason for lack of narrative drive is there's too much padding in the middle of the plot. The way you fix that is technique 14, which is known as stacking. Stacking is all about getting a denser plot. Again, you're looking at the scene list from Outbreak. Stacking works like this. You go down the list and you look for padding. In other words, you look for any scene that doesn't include a structure step. In other words, a scene where a structure step is not happening. And you try to cut that scene. Now you notice here, most of those scenes are tagged by a structure step. The structure step is to the right. So what that writer would do is look at the places where there is no structure step tag and see, can I get rid of that scene? And once you do get rid of that scene, you then shove everything forward, shove everything to the front. And you keep doing that. You keep doing that, and you will have intense narrative drive. Mistake. Scenes and dialogue don't build because the writer doesn't know how to link them under the surface. Technique 15. The biggest reason for bad dialogue isn't that somebody has a bad ear, it's that the writer doesn't know where this scene fits in the overall story structure. This is the draft screen where you write your scenes and dialogue. The most important technique for writing a great scene is that box right there in the middle that says the scene's position on the character arc. Every scene should either set up or pay off the hero's development over the course of the story. Because plot is all about driving character. So you got to make sure that every plot scene is doing its job. Now, once you've gone through all of the elements that will help you write a great scene, which you just saw on the previous screen, this box here at the bottom is where you would write the scene. I've taken the liberty of adding the first two lines from a different story. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Now, let me be very clear. No matter what you may have heard, Charles Dickens did not use the Blockbuster software to write A Tale of Two Cities. It did not happen, no matter what you've heard. But it sure would have made it easier. And you can write your entire novel right in that box for each scene. Now, there's a dirty little secret that writers don't like to talk about, but I will. Their second draft is usually worse than their first draft. It's one of the biggest reasons that writers give up. They think, I've gone through all this work, I'm trying to fix it, and I'm making it worse. So why does it happen? Here's the big mistake. The writer doesn't know how to rewrite. Rewriting is a skill set too. And what they typically do is they start at page 1 and they start fixing the dialogue. It's the last thing you should be doing. Now, to correct that mistake, we go to the rewrite screen. Here's technique 16. Always use a sequence for rewriting that deals with the structural flaws first. Structural flaws first. Now, as you can see on this screen, on the left is your scene list. On the upper right corner is where you write your scene. And then you see below that, you see the words possible weaknesses. Here's what's remarkable about this screen. If you click on the drop-down menu for possible weaknesses, you'll see a list of the most serious structural mistakes that you could make when writing any scene of your story. In other words, they might be there because these are the most common structural mistakes that writers make, period. And this prompts you to fix the structural mistakes first. If one of these mistakes applies to that particular scene, simply click on it and tag it. And then when you go to rewrite the scene, you'll be alerted to fix that problem. Oh, I got to fix that problem with the character. Technique number 17. Is about how to find the best genres for your story. If narrative drive is the single most important element in a bestseller, genre beats are the most important element for creating narrative drive by far. Here's the mistake. The writer uses the wrong genres to develop the idea. One of the worst mistakes you can make. For any idea you have, there could be a number of genres you could use as the vehicle to tell that story. The question is, what are the right ones to use? Technique 17. Bestseller writers always find the right genres to express the story idea. And how do you do that? Well, first you go to the genre screen. And here you see the 10 most popular fiction genres, along with masterpiece, memoir true story, and the 2 major TV forms, which are comedy and drama. Now, there are a lot of techniques for digging out the right genres for your story idea. The Blockbuster genre screen tells you all the elements that will determine your genre. So technique number 18, one of the best techniques for doing that is to match your hero's desire to the genre desire. That's one of the best clues as to what form you're in. Match hero's goal to genre goal. So for example, you see the list there. Action, to engage in combat. Comedy, to gain success or romance with humorous results. Crime, to catch a criminal. Detective, to find the truth. And so on. Technique 19 is the essential story strategy for writing a bestseller, and it must be in your novel. Here's the mistake. It's impossible to write a story the market wants to buy if you don't know the market's marketing strategy. And it gives us a key point. Most best-selling novels are not one genre. They are a combination of 2, 3, even 4 different forms. And therefore, technique 19 is to always look for 2 or 3 genres to tell your story, not just one. Now, this is the Blockbuster plot screen. And here's what's so powerful about it. If you get one or more of the genre add-ons, it will list the 10 to 20 plot techniques, the 10 to 20 plot beats of each form. So on your computer, you can have up to 3 genres that you're tracking at one time. And that gives you an incredibly detailed map. Not only of the 22 steps that you need to tell any good story, but also the beats, the genre beats that must be in your story if you're going to compete with everybody else working in your form. Because that's your competition. You've got to be the best at your form. Mistake. Many writers don't know all the professional techniques that go into writing their particular genre. They've done it by feel, and they've done pretty well so far. But that's not enough. So how do we fix that? Another great feature that comes with each genre add-on is what I call story maps. Now, story maps are screens specially designed to help you write that particular genre, and to do it at the professional level. So for example, let's take the detective story. The detective story has the most complex plot of any genre, bar none. And notice on the screen, the detective story comes with the following maps. They're in blue at the bottom. Suspects, crime, growth, knowledge, nightmare, social. Let's click on the crime map. One of the reasons detective plot is so hard to create is that you have to track the crime, the time it occurred, the perpetrator, their motive, and their alibi. And of course, you have to do that for everybody. That is extremely hard for the human mind to keep track of. But the computer is great at that. So technique 20 is simply fill in the boxes, and you have a very complete map of all the details of your genre story, and you see them simultaneously. And now you can do your creative work that you're so good at. Another feature that you get with each genre add-on is 4 additional examples that are unique to that form. So in detective, you get Chinatown, Maltese Falcon, Murder on the Orient Express, and LA Confidential. And again, every box is filled in. Every one. Took me years to do the examples alone. Now, to see how valuable these examples are when you're writing a detective story, let's take a look at the crime map for LA Confidential. which is possibly the most complex detective story ever written. Notice there isn't just one event or crime in this story, there are 11. If you were trying to write a mystery as complicated as this, imagine how valuable this screen would be to you. Now, how else does Blockbuster help you learn and apply these techniques? Blockbuster is an advanced story coach right in the computer, and here's what that means. First, I've already shown you the story coach and the story doctor that appears on every single screen, and it's unique to each screen. Second, there are the 32 story examples in the main program. Third, the 4 extra examples for each genre. And fourth is the help menu. Blockbuster has the most extensive help for fiction writing ever assembled in one place. Under lessons alone, it has in text form the entire Anatomy of Story course taken by over 50,000 writers worldwide. Each genre add-on includes the entire one-day course in text form that I teach for that form. Now, those are 20 important techniques that I believe every writer must know to have the best chance of writing a bestseller. I know I moved pretty fast, but I want to make sure I got through them all. Caution, once again, I'm barely scratching the surface for how to get to the top 1% of professional writers and stay there. Blockbuster is designed to help you write your best story in the shortest period of time with the least amount of pain. Writing doesn't have to be this painful, does it? I don't think so. The increase in productivity will astound you, especially if you are writing a novel series. I believe that you cannot afford to miss out on this amazing productivity tool. Every profession has professional tools. Blockbuster is the professional tool for storytellers. To that end, I invite you to take a look at the Blockbuster software and the genre add-ons on my website. You can see the link there, truby.com/members/Vegas 20Books. Plus, there's a 20Books Vegas discount of up to 70%. It's by far the biggest discount we give all year at the Writer's Studio in LA. That discount is available for a limited time, but only to people attending the 20Books conference. And to get it, you have to use that coupon there at checkout. It's Vegas 2022. I guarantee if you apply Blockbuster to your genre stories, you will write your best work ever, and you'll give yourself the best chance to compete with the top 1% of writers worldwide. That's why you are here at this conference, and I commend you for your commitment to your craft. One last point, if you want to purchase any of the genre add-on software, you have to also get the main Blockbuster program, but you only need it once. You don't have to keep adding it for each genre that you want. Now, I see that we have time to spare. Are there any questions about the story techniques, the software, whatever you want to talk about? Any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question for everybody. Can you restate mistake number 3 that you had? And the pro tip for that.
I don't think I numbered the mistakes, so I'd have to go back through. It probably has to do with character. Okay, yeah, it was probably that most writers don't understand that the most important technique for creating character is to create the character web first. What most writers do is they start by saying, well, my hero's driving the story. That's what I got to start with. No, start with the entire web. And by comparison, it's like doing a crossword puzzle. By comparison, you're going to define, and every time you define a character against another character, especially hero versus opponent, you will define each of them separately more and more. And you'll have a character that all hangs together as very unique and original. Yes?
I may have missed this, but when you're working with a series, it's possible to bring over a lot of what you already have data to the next book.
Of course.
And-
Yes.
And it's pretty seamless to do that, easy to do that?
Yes. All you would do is you would create a new story based on the story that you already have, and then you can make any changes in that new story that you want.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi. You might have said this, but I didn't know if it's compatible with Word.
Yes, it is. It's compatible with any word processing program.
Okay. And also, are there workshops available for someone who's not that computer literate?
Absolutely. If you go to that address there, that link, Truby.com members Vegas 20Books, you'll see not only the software but all the courses that I do. I've been doing genre classes for over 30 years. My Anatomy of Story class, what I mentioned, has 50,000 writers have taken it, but there are probably 25 different courses focused on the different genres and different storytelling techniques.
And it's done here in Vegas?
They're actually, they're based on live classes that I've done. They are recorded, and each one of those is an audio recording, which is an MP3 file. And sometimes people say, well, you know, I really prefer live seminars, and I understand that. But for these courses, anybody who's ever taken these courses, you know they are very packed. They're very dense with technique. And so I actually think that people do better when they take the course as an audio course because, one, they go at their own speed, and two, they can review. And what I recommend when people get a class is apply it as you listen to the class, apply it to the story you're working on. Because you'll not only master the techniques better, but it'll actually give you a really good story.
Thank you.
How does this software integrate with dictation?
Pardon?
How does the software integrate with dictation? Like, are you able to dictate in the software?
It does not have a dictating capability. What I do when I use the program, because I also use dictation, is I will dictate, a lot of times I will dictate a scene just to get it down, and then I'll just cut and paste it into that screen, and that's when I'll start to make my fixes.
During your discussion, you said that most stories are about 2 to 3 different genres that you would recommend to bring them
Yes.
together. So if you're looking at this software, how would you know which ones of the add-ons that you offer to mix and match to be able to see how you can build your first novel?
Great question. The genre screen, there's one screen there that says genre. And what it then lists is about 10 different elements that you use to check what genre is this story idea. What is the best genre for my story idea? And it includes different types of heroes, the different kinds of opponents that you see in each of the genres, the story strategy that each genre uses, and most especially, the one I pointed out was the desire line. And it lists the desire line of every one of the genres. And the easiest way to figure out your genre and to figure out the main genre is to figure out what is my hero's goal, and then go to that drop down and see if it matches one of those. I guarantee you it will match one of those, and that's probably your genre. And then for the other 2 genres, look at other elements that are close to it, because it's got a drop down for 3 different genres that you can choose. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.